Hello folks, this is Fuzzfinger and welcome back to the Mr. Pandaria beta. This is the Arena of Annihilation, which is the second of two scenarios recently being made available to us on the beta. The first, which was Greenstone Village, is also available on my channel if you want to go and check that out. I'll put an annotation to it just above so you can click that if you want to see that. But this is, as I mentioned, the Arena of Annihilation, and it's actually based upon the Crucible of Carnage style Ring of Blood, Amphitheatre of Anguish quests, which you may remember from previous expansions. Basically the concept is you face 5 bosses with no trash, one after the other, in order to complete. That's where the similarity ends really, and unfortunately the good points which you had in the previous expansion versions of this place are no longer present. In other words, for example, you don't get a reward, a gold reward or potion reward after every battle. That was one of the main reasons that people enjoyed doing the Ring of Blood or the Crucible of Carnage. It was good for experience when you were levelling, and it was good for gold. That's no longer the case. You basically fight all 5 bosses, one after the other, as you did before, but your reward is a measly 19 gold at the very end for handling the quest, plus your standard scenario reward. My main problem with this is that I don't think it should have been a scenario. I think it should have been included as part of the questing experience. The reason being, when you do say the Ring of Blood, or the Amphitheatre of Anguish, or whichever one it might be, you do it once on the character you're playing in order to level him up a little bit, get some gold. Once you've done it, and that's fine, and you get a nice blue weapon if I remember correctly after each one. Now that's good the way it worked, but you only really want to do them once per character. Once you've done it, you've done it. And the problem with making this a scenario is that it's going to get boring. You choose random scenario and you keep getting this place, then you're just going to get sick of it really quickly, I think. There is no trash, there is no dungeon really. It is just one room and 5 bosses, and that's it. And it's not even particularly challenging, it's just going to get boring. And that's why I think it should have just been a part of the questing experience, as it was before in previous expansions. So, you know, when you're level 88 or 89 or whatever, you come and do this, get a nice bit of XP, a break from the usual questing, get your blue weapon reward and a load of gold, and you've done it. You've done it once on the character, you've enjoyed it, and that's it, unless you level an ult up and do it again. But this isn't the right way to do it, I don't think. At least that's what I think. That's what I've seen so far from it. Don't get me wrong, I enjoyed this run, but this was the first time I did it. Am I going to be excited if I get it again in a random scenario? No, probably not, to be honest. But that's my rant over with anyway. I think this should have been included as part of the questing experience. Anyway, there's 5 stages, as I've mentioned, 5 bosses, and to start each one you need to bang the gong. That's pretty good. It means you get to get ready between each fight. If you need to heal up or bandage or rebuff or whatever, then you can do so. Once you bang the gong, then the next boss appears. And there's not really any tactics to these fights, except on this one here, it does this fire thing which you need to stay out of, and then spawns firewalls which move around the centre, the outside of the room. In order to finish these firewalls, you need to kill these enemies that spawn. There's 3 adds, and each one is linked to a firewall. Once the ad dies, the fire dies. It's really that simple. I am actually starting to think that these scenarios are perhaps going to need a little bit more tuning, because you've probably noticed that we're not actually taking that much damage, and that's pretty much been the same story across all of the scenarios that we've done. And my gear is crap, by the way. It literally is questing gear. I think I've got maybe the odd dungeon blue in there somewhere, but it really isn't good gear, and I should be taking more damage than I'm taking. I'm not even trying. And not only that, I haven't got any add-ons, none of my keybinds are working, I'm having to press all the buttons manually, and it's just really simple, it really is. So I do hope that Blizzard buff things just a little bit at least. you have to spam the gong a little bit just to get it to go off. And this is the second, I believe, to last fight. The big yak we pretty much just ignored in this encounter, although you might want to take it out first. It does have less health than the boss, but we just let it wander loose, and it didn't actually seem to cause any problems for anybody. It does look awesome, this guy, I have to say. And those two fire axes that he's wielding, they look absolutely deadly. Terrifying, but they don't hurt as much as they look like they should, to be honest. Either way, the same sort of thing applied. We just focused on the boss and just burnt him down, and everything seemed to go without a problem. There is that little bit of fire on the floor, which I casually strolled through, and it didn't seem to do anything to me. Don't get me wrong, I fully understand from Blizzard's point of view that they're going to have to be careful with how they tune these scenarios, because obviously you don't have a tank, you don't have a healer, you just need to be able to do it with 3 DPS. And that's fine, I understand they're going to have to be tuned differently to, say, 5-man dungeons where you do have those roles. But even so, where they're at now, I don't think it's hard enough. I'm not saying it should be hard. Challenge modes are there for people who want hard content like that, but they should be harder than they are. The giant yak thing, by the way, or whatever that is, just randomly, well, not randomly, but it does just disappear once you've killed the boss. You don't need to worry about him, I don't think. So I was a little bit worried then, because it said the final stage began when the yak was still present, but he does just vanish. That's okay. And this is the last boss. It's got a pretty cool entrance. He comes whizzing in. Although if you've saved all your cooldowns and whatnot for this moment, then he is not going to last long at all. He'll be down before you know it. He does have a tendency to root you in place as well, so you may or may not want to concern yourself with that. Now, scenarios, as far as I'm aware, their basic point is to replace group quests, because group quests were a good way of bringing people together, but if you're leveling through content that's, say, a little outdated, or the rush after a new expansion has gone, then you may not even be able to find a group for the old group quests. And that was a bit of a problem, because it meant there was content you couldn't do. So all group quests have gone now in Mists, and instead we have these scenarios, which hopefully you will always be able to get a group for. So I think it's a good reason to have them, except for this one, which I think should have been out in the world as opposed to in its own instance. But anyway, that's going to be it for this video, folks. I hope you enjoyed this peek at Arena of Annihilation, and thank you very much for joining me. I've been Fuzzfinger. Sorry if I've been a little bit negative in this video, I'd just like to give my opinion. I'll see you next time.
Talk to me later.